Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful, Rabbit Hole, King Dio, Lauren Frey, and the upcoming Jaw the Dragon. I suppose I should adjust my camera a little bit. So Nintendo released their financial report this past week. I believe it was yesterday, and there were a lot of things to talk about. In particular, like comparisons between Switch and PS5 sales, sales numbers for specific titles. Metroid Dread is now the best-selling Metroid title ever. Like lots of really good, exciting news. And as always, Pretendos had to find a reason to bitch. It is remarkable to me how Pretendos will try and find something to complain about whenever like this really good positive news comes out about Nintendo. So one of the things we noticed when it came to Nintendo doing as well as it did this quarter is that Switch is well on its way to becoming the best-selling title console ever. Like people were trying to downplay this. Like people were saying that it was never going to outsell the PS4. Well, guess what? It's about to. I think it's going to happen by next year, which is really really exciting news because the PS4 didn't really deserve the attention it got. The Switch is a far superior platform in like both hardware and software. Like in with its own unique gimmicks that the PS4 will never be able to match. The Switch will be remembered far more fondly than the PS4, the PS2, or well, any PlayStation game, really, console, really. Um, and it has cemented itself. The Switch has cemented itself as the single one of the best-selling consoles of all time. Of course, Pretendos had to try and rain on everyone's parade by making Switch's success out to be a bad thing. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I say there's like an elaborate conspiracy against Nintendo to try and spin every news story about what happens to them like in regards to them in like a negative fashion. When it came to the Switch's sales, literally on track to being the best-selling console of all time. The overwhelming consensus I saw today was that how are they possibly going to follow up on that? They're gonna need powerful hardware. They're gonna need no gimmicks. They're gonna need games right at launch. They don't want another Wii U. Basically, they were concern trolling. They were suggesting that Nintendo would not be able to follow up on the Switch successfully, implying that the Switch was nothing but a fad. Just like the Wii, just like the Super Nintendo, just like the NES, nothing but a fad. Nintendo is going bankrupt. It hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened since 1886, but it is going to happen one day. And of course, I've kind of made my stance on this clear. I actually said this back during the Wii U days, and like the very 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 bottom of like a very peak of like Pretendo concern trolling in regards to like, oh, is Nintendo going third party? It's not going to happen. Like the third parties congregated. They colluded. They formed a coalition. Like they formed their own like retarded revenge like of Avenger style team to try and take Nintendo down, right? And they failed. They don't have the capital anymore to do what they did back in the Wii U era, where they like utilized game journalists to like convince the public that the Wii had no games, that the Wii U was just an add-on, and that was the whole Wii U thing was a big series of events like designed by like the competition to try and destroy Nintendo's success in the console industry. And it's not really possible again, in part because of like the rise in popularity of Nintendo Directs, and part of like the lack of trust people have in game journalists, and in part because of the decline of interest in third-party games and developers and franchises. Nintendo has kind of established itself as the king of video games once again. There are a few holdouts, like people are still pretending that Elden Ring can like compete with Zelda or some shit like that, but the overwhelming majority of people agree that Nintendo is the king of the industry. Like there are a few holdouts when it comes to like people who are still clinging on to like inferior PC gaming and stuff like that. But like Nintendo's going to someday crack down on that too, especially when they finally start dealing with piracy. Right? Like like when your best argument against Nintendo consoles is that like maybe someday you'll be able to emulate like Wii games in like in your fucking on your fucking OS like on your fucking $2,000 gaming rig. Like I think I don't think you're going to be able to compete to be honest with you. Basically what Pretendos tried to do was take this very positive news story of Nintendo and spin it negatively, and it's not going to work. It never will work. Nintendo will live on. You tried to kill Nintendo, and you failed.